Today I wanted to dive in the major political shift surrounding Austrian politics, the resignation of Chancellor Karl Nehammer. What is the future of Austria and its people? Today we're going to answer everything surrounding Karl Nehammer's resignation, as well as the recent election win of the Freedom Party of Austria, FPÖ. So Nehammer's resignation came as a bit of a surprise, but not a complete surprise, because he had a lot of issues going on. He took office in 2021, and his legacy entails really a lot of not so positive policies that were implemented in Austria during the past health crisis and also post-health crisis. So many policies the Austrian people, as well as other parties, part of the Austrian parliament, did not agree with. The past health crisis was a perfect example of why Karl Nehammer's policies, among the policies of other politicians located inside and outside the European Union, can never work for the long term. You can never use fear to drive a population to success and victory. Let's not forget that during the past crisis, Karl Nehammer himself, former Chancellor of Austria, was in favor of a vaccine mandate, something that was opposed by so many of Austria's politicians. While the mandate never came into effect, the fear of implementing it led to the desired result. So the controversial vaccine mandate, lockdowns that put so many people and businesses out of business, created a lot of dissatisfaction among the general population. And quite frankly, Nehammer's policies highlighted the party's willingness to implement crazy policies that shouldn't be implemented by using strategies that most people are opposed to. Let's talk about the economic challenges that are plaguing Austria for so long. Austria experienced tiny economic growth and high inflation during the past years, undermining confidence in Nehammer's administration. Inflation peaked at over 11% in 2022. And let's not even talk about the war in Ukraine that further accelerated dissatisfaction among the Austrian population. The war in Ukraine led to sky-high energy prices, but it helped green energy policies to accelerate the fourth industrial revolution. Not all of Austria's policies were implemented to benefit the general population, including the middle class and the lower class that suffer the most. While some recovery has been made since 2022, so many of the past policies are still impacting Austrians today. Many critics argue that Nehammer's policies failed to implement meaningful reforms during the past 3 years. Austria is suffering from inflation, a stagnant economy, and immigration policies many Austrians want to change. The final nail in the coffin for Nehammer was his inability to form a coalition with the Freedom Party of Austria that won the past election in late 2024. You see, one person can experience only so much failure in so many years until the person himself decides to resign. Even though Nehammer was called to resign much early on, he finally found dignity and did it himself, liberating the Austrian people. Since the end of World War II, this is the first time that Austria's Freedom Party, the FPÖ, won a general election, highlighting the many challenges Austria faces in the 21st century. Austria's problems are much deeper than the ones I highlighted that occurred during the past health crisis. There's so many ideological divides, not only in Austria, but across the entire European Union. And in fact, outside the European Union, even in North America, even in Asia, even in Down Under, ideological divides are very much present today. Austria's government is still a disaster. While the Freedom Party won with the intention to resolve a lot of the challenges that have been emphasized by recent protests executed by the Austrian population, there's so much more that needs to be done during Herbert Kickle's administration. Herbert Kickle is the leader of Austria's Freedom Party at this time. There's so many problems surrounding Austrian politics that if we were to discuss them in this video would easily go into the hours. But just to give another very important example of something that is not functioning properly within Austria's government is the inability to agree on certain policies parties because the parties have very distinct ideas of what should happen in Austria during the next 5 to 6 years. Until 2030, the Greens prioritize so many of the green energy policies that have led to the destruction of Austria's middle class. Yet the Greens insist on fully implementing these green policies, ignoring the needs of the general population, which of course include lower energy prices to make life more affordable. The environmental agenda of the Greens is insane. It is delusional, it is impractical, and it is leading, or it has led to the destruction of Austria's middle class. Repeated votes of no confidence really put the final nail in the coffin for Karl Nehammer. So many of Austria's leaders, including those of opposing parties, have criticized Karl Nehammer for a very long time. Even people within his own party have criticized him. Austria is an increasingly more divided society with problems the Austrian government has yet to resolve. There's a reason why Austria's Freedom Party rose so much this quickly. It's not by accident. You can't say it's by design either. The rise of Europe's right-wing parties, especially those in Western Europe, highlight the dissatisfaction demonstrated by the general population inside the European Union. The fact that Austria's Freedom Party got 29%, very close to 29% of the general population to vote for the Freedom Party, which once was considered a party that had no chance of winning a general election. It was considered chanceless for decades. The last election result really highlights the general population's dissatisfaction surrounding immigration policies, inflation, green energy policies, wokeness, and many other challenges. The perception the general population of Austria has of its own government is that Austria's own government is ineffective. Years and years, and you could argue decades and decades of ineffective governance led to the Freedom Party's win during the past election. Another fact that was shocking to me is that Austria's president, Alexander van der Bellen, refused to work with the Freedom Party's winner, Herbert Kickl, to form a coalition. There's so much divide within governments these days, whereas the solution is to work together to serve the people of the country. The Freedom Party's rise highlights a change in politics in Europe and worldwide. It is part of a broader trend that has been building up for so many years and is now finally coming to fruition in Austria and many other EU countries. Right-wing parties are gaining momentum amid frustrations felt by the general populations inside the European Union. Things happen for a reason. Kickl, the leader of Austria's Freedom Party, has positioned himself as a defender for national freedom. He promised to defend Austria's sovereignty, something past governments were not able to do for years and even decades. Kickl promised to reduce or completely eliminate EU interference, something that has been plaguing Austria for so many years. He promised to prioritize national interests over international interference. Isn't that what the Austrian people wanted to hear? And wanted to see implemented as well. It's not just about making the promise, but it is more about delivering on the promise made. Kickl's anti-immigration stance, combined with proposals to cut taxes, have led to his victory. He also promised to cut welfare programs for non-citizens, prioritizing the citizens of the country. Let's have a look at some key economic and demographic trends of Austria, leading to calls for stronger price control inside the Central European country. Unemployment rates in 2020 rose from 6.4 to 8.4%, while rates for immigrants were almost double as high. While unemployment improved in 2023, it is far from perfect. Immigration trends are through the roof. Austria's Freedom Party leader Herbert Kickl promised to control immigration from certain countries, assuring national security and preserving job opportunities for citizens and legal residents, just how it should be. Immigration inflows from Eastern Europe and the Middle East have led to widespread dissatisfaction, and tensions over housing, education, and public services are all too common in the Central European country. You might ask, what's next for Austria and Herbert Kickl, now leader of the Austrian Freedom Party. Herbert Kickl has also promised to distance himself from NATO and potentially create stronger ties with Russia, something many of Austria's politicians oppose. Economically, Austria's Freedom Party may push for reforms to address inflation and unemployment while balancing spending. Blocking migration, along many other issues, could lead to tensions with Brussels, particularly regarding energy policies, migration quotas, and economic regulations. It is a matter of fact that Austria is one of the highest taxed countries in the entire world. Austria's highest income tax bracket is sitting at 55%, making life very difficult for high net worth individuals, and in fact average Austrians as well, because everyone has to be paying these taxes. Austria's Freedom Party, the FPÖ, promised to strengthen traditional values. The goal is to reverse some of the progressive policies that have been implemented over the past number of years. The Freedom Party may also consider to tighten asylum laws, strengthening border security, and pushing for cultural assimilation programs, something that has rarely been done over the past number of years. Austria's political shift mirrors a widespread change in European politics. Populist and nationalist movements are on the rise in the European Union. It's very possible that we will see similar results in other EU countries, including Germany, France, and Spain. If you have the resources to do so, you may want to consider relocating to a friendlier destination where freedom is granted. Even if the Freedom Party of Austria secures a lot of the promises they have made during their campaign, it is yet unlikely that all changes will be implemented to satisfy the Austrian population. Most likely, tax rates are not going to come down a lot during the next years. Chances of economic growth improving are also very slim because Austria is home to a very old population, a low birth rate, and manufacturing has been outsourced to the east for decades. The chances of this picture changing over the next years are slim to none. While it is true that Austria's Freedom Party may reverse certain trends, including green energy policies that have impacted average Austrians, as well as eliminate or at least reduce certain immigration trends that have led to wide-grown dissatisfaction among the general population, not all changes will be implemented or fully completed. Austrians, among many EU nationals, have long migrated to the immigrant-friendly continent of South America, where Austrians can own property, companies, obtain residency, and eventually become citizens. Immigrant-friendly countries like Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and Paraguay come to mind. If you're interested in learning more about how you can relocate to an immigrant-friendly destination in South America, please book a consultation with us today. You should see our website displayed on the screen. Go to nomadelite.com, book a consultation with me personally, and I will advise you on the next steps to relocate to South America, where you can secure lower energy costs, lower living costs, more freedom, lower taxes, and a much better quality of life. Thank you so much for watching Nomad Elite. I appreciate your attendance, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.